Welcome back to Fight News Now. A couple of big UFC fights have been announced after re-signing with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Former K1 champion Alistair Overeem has his next assignment as he is set to collide with former UFC heavyweight champion Overeem-Arlovski on May 8th in Rotterdam, Holland. Man, what a great fight that is. Alistair Overeem looking to extend his winning streak to 4 straight. Did you expect this? If you think about when Alistair Overeem was fighting for K1 or fighting for Strikeforce, that he would eventually make his way to the UFC, and really, he could be fighting for the title right now. He's a big enough draw, he has the star power, he has the fighting abilities, and you would imagine if he manages to get past Overeem-Arlovski, certainly making a case.
Yes, for sure. He's been hot and cold, and when very hot, he's been very hot. And when he's been very cold, he's been unconscious. And that's the heavyweight game. That's the heavyweight game. And this is a killer fight. It's a spectacular fight. Did you say some big fights?
Yeah, big fights.
You said big fights? This is a big fight. A very interesting thing people are going to talk about a lot. These guys better be ready to be asked about it a lot. But they're saying they're still going to both train at Greg Jackson's.
Do you believe that?
Maybe, at least at first. After a bit. I mean, it's an interesting one because they probably sparred a lot. They seem to be friends. They know what each other does. What's the difference, right? Well, if you're having a bad day and he's having a great day and you're over here with your coach doing your thing, having a frustrating one, and he's having a brilliant one, that is an extra element you just don't need. I don't know, but on the other hand, who's going to leave?
Yeah.
I'm not leaving.
Well,
you leaving?
We've seen this before. Travis Brown and Overeem-Arlovski, they were former teammates. Travis Brown, of course, making the move to train with Edmund.
He's really going to train with his girlfriend.
Sure, but so that has happened. Alistair Overeem he has a relationship with the Black Zillions, so I wouldn't be surprised if he decided to, okay, you know what, we tried this. I don't need Arlovski seeing any of my tricks. I'm going to go hang it with Henry Hoover.
I don't want to talk out of turn, but it does sound like Alistair has on occasion burned the odd bridge. So I'm not 100% sure places he used to train are where he may end up. It might have to be. But on the other hand, you know, through much of his career, even down at the Black Zillions and at Greg Jackson's, he's brought in some of his own team. Yep. Even when he has a room with training partners and stuff, he is team Alistair Overeem. So you can just book different hours.
That's not uncommon.
That's the case. Not uncommon, but it ends up for whatever reason, and you take these things with a grain of salt in whatever business you're in. Oh, people don't like that guy. Sometimes they're jealous. Sometimes they just don't get what they want from them. Sometimes expectations are different. Sometimes it's a language barrier. It can be anything. So that isn't that uncommon, but it sounded like, on occasion, some of the rumblings against Alistair Overeem was, hey, he's not really part of the team anyways. Right. He has his own team. He's just in the building. If that's the case, just book it from 2 to 5 if he's training from 8 to 10, you know, and it can be done.
Either way, it's going to be a sensational fight. On the co-main event of that same card going down on May 8th, Stefan Struve and Bigfoot Silva. We always saw the potential in Stefan Struve. The idea, though, was he gets hit a lot for a guy of his size. Have we seen the improvements? Have you seen the improvements in his game over the last couple of fights that will prevent him taking head injuries moving forward?
I've actually seen on a telephone from my one of my friends that is down at the Black Zillions. I don't think it was not meant for my viewing, but I don't think it was meant to put on the internet either, of Stefan Struve hitting pads. Man, he looked good. For a big, giant guy, looked super slick and super coordinated and very, very skilled. Now, pads are different than a people. But on the other hand, one of them people was my friend Stipe Miocic, and you know, you saw what happened. This guy has the potential to do it. Still young, but a lot of times when we're deeply embedded in something for many years, we think of someone's age as the last time someone mentioned, "Oh, he's just a kid," and all of a sudden these kids get older. Yeah. So potential is something that is something you grow into or live up to, but you still have to do it. You still have to grow into that. You still have to live up to it. This guy has the potential to do that. And Bigfoot is a beloved character. He's just such a gentle giant, and they say that about a lot of giants, and for good reason. But he is in a precarious position as a guy getting a little older, who does have his own hormonal issues, probably needs some hormonal treatments that are now not available due to USADA. So this is a time, this is a real chance for Stefan Struve to go make a big statement and say, I will be heavyweight champion one day.
You would expect that this is the scenario that Stefan Stefan Struve looks at, it's the best case scenario for me. I've changed up my training. I'm adding to my game. I'm evolving as a fighter. And I'm getting a Bigfoot Silva that has been through the meat grinder, has been through the wars, has been laid out. As you mentioned, can't do the things that he was doing before in order to perform at his best. Mentally, you would imagine Stefan Struve has the edge just knowing that going forward. But is that the truth? Are the things that Bigfoot Silva can do to kind of turn back the clock, so to speak?
Yeah, that one's hard, I think, because there's extra medical challenges for this big man. And so I think that is very challenging. But he's got lots of heart and lots of desire and very, very good skills for a big man. But Struve, training with Henry Hooft, in my opinion, who's the best at anything? Who's the best fighter? Who's the best coach? These things are there's so many the bests, but Henry's certainly one of them. And the way he looks at the game of movement and balance and has adapted his brilliant kickboxing very much for the ranges of mixed martial arts and the extra threats of mixed martial arts. And I really can't wait to see what Stefan Struve does.
And in other news, Ken Shamrock was scheduled to take on UFC Hall of Famer Dan Severn, but unfortunately, following his bout with Royce Gracie at Bellator 149, he has been medically suspended for 30 days. That event, UR Fight, is set to go down on March 20th in Phoenix, Arizona. Rey Mysterio Jr. is supposed to take on Kurt Angle. Roy Jones Jr. apparently is fighting some sort of fan. And Michael Bisping has a grappling match with Chael Sonnen, and we had a chance to talk to the Count, who told us that it is in fact signed.
Yeah, that's right. It is actually signed. I will be competing against Chael Sonnen in a grappling match. So I'm taking Chael on at his strength. Obviously, if you were to categorize us, I would be the striker and he would be the grappler. But, we'll see what happens. I'm very confident. I mean, in that third round when we fought, I actually took him down and I was able to stop most of his takedowns. And, this is a jiu-jitsu match. It's not an MMA match. So we'll see. Chael has been submitted before, and hopefully he'll get submitted again.
Michael Bisping taking on Chael Sonnen. It's the only thing that brings legitimacy, I think, to this UR Fight show. And I like the idea. Again, I think most people think of Michael Bisping like they think of Donald Cerrone, a guy that stands up, moves forward, and constantly beats you with his striking abilities. But if you look at Michael Bisping's background, this guy has a jiu-jitsu and grappling background. He mentioned, taking Chael Sonnen down in his fight. I actually thought Michael Bisping won that fight. But Chael Sonnen also has grappling experience. He competed in ADCC back in the day. So I'm very intrigued with this matchup.
Well, I think when you say, I don't know if this show makes sense, you might mean it from an analyst point of view that's analyzing, are people going to do this? We've seen all kinds of things pop up on pay-per-view, one-day tournaments, all kinds of crazy stuff that maybe doesn't work and doesn't sell a lot of pay-per-views or it isn't a financial windfall of success. But who cares? Like, if you were a guy who had access to some funds, whether it was something that you just did for fun, you might put on a show like this. You might. There are people. Mr. Burns has got an outfit made out of gorilla chests. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can just put things on because they're a good time. And will we make time to watch this if it's on a Saturday afternoon? Yeah, we might.
I think so. And Ken Shamrock, you look back at his history, making his UFC debut in 1993 was synonymous with combat sports, WWE, as well as, Pancrase, fighting for Pride. So he's established his legacy. How would he, when you look at going into his fight with Royce Gracie at Bellator 149, could you imagine that the numbers would be that high, especially when they were coupled with Kimbo Slice and Dada 5000?
You're telling me that the numbers were high on the Kimbo Slice Dada 500 show? Like, that couldn't have been true. Probably nobody watched
Averaging 2 million with peaked at 2.5 million. So if you are a Viacom executive or you're Scott Coker, you are believing that this is a home run.
Yeah, I guess. You know what sucks? Like, pop music generally sucks. Probably since the 80s, 90s, 2000s. I think it's terrible, probably, right? I think a lot of people can get that. Why? Because once upon a time, people would go and find musicians and they would help them develop until they made brilliant music, and then they would find a way to release it and market it. And then all of a sudden, by the 90s, people had figured out, well, if we had a girl who had a nice body and great hair, or a guy who was really handsome, and they could kind of sing, we'd hire some hit makers and we'd teach them how to do media, and then we'd release their garbage record. That's fine if you are putting out a fragrance or an album or something. This is combat sports, man. You can't just take somebody with a cool haircut who's really good on the mic, who's a marketing genius, data 350, because you'll get them killed.
Right.
You could get somebody killed. This isn't something you do to be famous or a star. You go and you train for years. Professional fighting is for professional athletes. And yes, anybody can make a pop album these days. We'll auto-tune you and we'll make it work. Anybody can go and make their own YouTube channel and be a celebrity. But you cannot be a professional athlete because someone will die in the cage. He's got a great haircut. He talks amazingly. He knows how to sell fights, but you still got to fight. And that 300-pound man did not know how to make weight, did not know how to be healthy, did not know how to exert himself in a cage, and did not know how to fight as a professional athlete, and he could have died.
We've seen it, though, throughout the history, the UFC signing CM Punk, Jose Canseco in mixed martial arts action. I think it's going to be a trend that will continue, but a trend that will continue here on Fight Network. Our coverage of Anderson Silva and Michael Bisping will continue this Saturday, February 27th at 3 p.m. as we look ahead to that amazing main event. And then all the main card action will be here on FN starting at 4 p.m. Tom Breeze, Keita Nakamura, Gegard Mousasi Talaslitis, and of course your main event, Anderson Silva versus Michael Bisping.